two to Web3.
Hello and welcome to the LFG podcast. I'm Ian Horne. I write the newsletter and, of course, I do a lot of the talking on the podcast. Who knew? Today, I'm joined by Aquarius Maximus, who is the founder of Guapcoin and also featured in my book a few years back called Why DeFi Matters, talking about Guapcoin and what it does and why it matters. So, Aquarius, really good to have you here today. Good to see you again after 2 or 3 years. Firstly, can you just give a bit of context for people that maybe haven't read the book or haven't followed your work and let us know a bit about Guapcoin? Because not only is it an interesting thing, but you've been on a fascinating journey with it.
I sure have. I founded Guapcoin we launched back in 2017. It was, crypto, blockchain, Bitcoin had been being brought to me for a while. Honestly, way back in the days when it was first brought to me, I just kind of totally ignored it, put it to the side. I didn't really understand the gravity of it, but the person who brought it to me certainly was probably a bigger pioneer than I was. But he was like, "Do you see this? You need to do this." And I'm like, but he didn't get into it too much, so I didn't really know. But back in 2014, I had started my first startup, and I was struggling raising capital for the startup, VCs, et cetera. And that's when I kind of delved in a little bit more and found out that the abysmal numbers in terms of Black women founders that actually get VC funding or funding. So I circled back around to crypto and blockchain. I also wanted to integrate blockchain in a product that I had founded, but my team was very old and outdated. And they were like, "What is this blockchain crypto thing?" And yada, yada, yada. So inevitably, I walked away from that and I started Guapcoin because I saw more reasons. I said that we struggle with, of course, money in general in the community, but what we struggle with is the pure amount of money that goes out of our community and the pure amount of money, the spending money, because spending cap, because we're often told that our spending is in the trillions. Yet we're not seeing that return to the community, nor are we even aware of what we're spending on. What does the data look like in terms of that? And I'm a data person as well. So blockchain solved so many things for me. It solved data. Where are we spending? A place for us to collectively put the social capital that we're putting out there into and hopefully be able to benefit as a community back from what we're spending and investing in. And then we have the transparency to be able to see all of these things on the blockchain. So I started Guapcoin. I built it. I built the first iteration of the chain. I inevitably hired on a team because it was very difficult at that time to bring on people that actually had the skills, or just even a desire to do this for practically free, like
Yeah.
myself. And we were a very organic chain because, again, no outside capital, VC, or anything like that. Just building this from the ground up, which is, I think, the very most difficult thing ever. So Guapcoin was born. And then even a couple of years ago, I built a layer two because I was like, we need more than just this UTXO Bitcoin like chain. We need an actual ecosystem. We need a DeFi ecosystem. We need to be able to do smart contracts, et cetera. And it was my desire this whole entire time in the beginning to have that capability. And honestly, at that time, as a developer engineer, I really didn't know how to do that. But eventually it got to the point where I did know how to do that. So we launched a layer two, and that layer two had remained beta for like about 2 years. We didn't really, it's more of an internal thing. Okay, we're gonna build this up. Because I got to do more educating. Everything that I do, I have to educate. So I consider this not only a crypto and a blockchain, but an education platform because it's like the weight of having to educate the community has been put on my shoulders in terms of how to actually use this on a day-to-day basis because our community is more focused on usage than it is on storage. Just
Mhm.
putting money in something versus actually using it is the bigger use case for us.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things you mentioned there that I could pick up on. I think one is just to get something really basic. What is the benefit of having your own coin and DeFi ecosystem? How does that, what are the economics of that and how it benefits the African diaspora?
Well, first of all, our own ecosystem, not mine. I've been pushing for that for years.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
the benefit of it, of course, is the segmentation of this data and the specialization of this data to really see the spending impact of the diaspora, to really see the global wealth impact of the diaspora, because we're told stories, but it doesn't match up. You know what I mean? So in various different places, like even in on a continent, you have so many resources that are going out. And again, the same thing as in America. You got resources going out, but not coming back in. And there's not an adequate or substantial impact on the community that is going out. And as a matter of fact, of course, on the continent, people are dying. Wars are breaking out. People are dying, and they're still not getting the impact of what's going out and what's being taken out of the community. And I feel like one of the things that we're moving towards, of course, with blockchain, and I just heard a lot about it when I was in Davos a couple of weeks ago, is the tokenization of all things, which is something we've been talking about forever, tokenizing everything, right? And that what a great transparent way of seeing where everything is going and where everything is coming from and the supply chain and the source and and the movement of these things across the world. What better way to see it? A lot of people are against the transparency being displayed that way because just in the general community, because it's like, oh, well, we're being tracked, we're being monitored, we're being whatever. But they don't understand how in impoverished communities, transparency could actually be the best thing ever. We may not be looking for, think about it like if you get wealthy, right? You want to be anonymous because you don't want to go outside and somebody sees you, knows who you are, you get mobbed like Michael Jackson, right? But when you're poor, and you need attention to the things that you're trying to put out, you need transparency. That's what you're waiting for. You're waiting to be seen, you're waiting to be acknowledged. So coming from this part of the world, coming from where I am, I say transparency is a good thing. I say bring it on. And not necessarily just surveillance, because we're a real surveilly kind of people too. We like to dig and find out information as well. So, but I just say bring it on.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point, the transparency one, and it's something that isn't unique to DeFi at all, isn't it? Because I see it in community lending when more people are being brought into savings and lending ecosystems, like literally by having someone vouch for them. Same with identification and verifications. Like now, it's more likely that when people don't have those documents that they need or whatever, you can find someone who does to within a suitable role or position to verify you. So yeah, I totally agree. There's some real value to that. Moving beyond the kind of bigger picture and looking at Guapcoin, which is still obviously it's kind of the bigger picture, but do you know what I mean? Which real world kind of use cases have you achieved so far? When you look at what's happened over the last few years, are there any particular
Mhm.
outcomes that you're particularly proud of?
Absolutely. In terms of it's a couple. And I feel like we kind of had got a jump start, but you always get the jump start. But when you need either the community or the capital to keep the engine going. You know what I mean? So the jump start that we got is we did get businesses that would start accepting Guapcoin, would start utilizing it, figuring out strategies on how they can use it in their business. And some of the strategies that we came up with, well, we were like, well, if you don't want to accept it as a currency per se as a whole, because you still need to use fiat, then think about your saving strategy, like how you want to save pass on savings to your customers, how you want to do rewards or coupons or whatever the case may be. So, whatever coupon special or reward that you do, you can use that with Guapcoin. You could just say, hey, if you purchase this, then, if you use Guapcoin, then maybe it's a restaurant, maybe you can get this meal or get this item with the Guapcoin or whatever. We weren't just trying to force it on people. Of course, they didn't have a full understanding or full liquidity and enough liquidity to be able to handle such a thing. But we're talking about you being able to pass off this and get a community that's dedicated to supporting you. So that's one thing. There's a couple of my most famous stories that I'm super proud of. And you're talking about taking something from nothing to value. Because people don't understand this. They're like, and I see it today, they're talking about Bitcoin or whatever. I say, well, there really is no value in it. It's play money. It's this. And they're bringing it back up even more. But what they don't understand is that the value in any money is the people. It's how the people believe in that money and believe in the security of that money, because there's always been things to represent money in the past. Years ago, the first money, shells. We had shells, we had cowrie shells, we had I tell a story of pain of the king having to pay 30 million cowrie shells for his taxes, and stuff like that. So we always had something that represented value, that was transportable, portable, all of those things that money needs to have. We had money. Money is not a new thing. So, because people don't understand money and they don't understand where the actual value comes from, that's how they'll look at it to say, well, there's no value behind it. But we all know, what value do we have behind the dollar? If there's at this point. So, so that bringing that about that understanding, and also showing businesses how they can integrate this into their day to day is super important, because my premise was always like, we Guapcoin could be the ones that actually bring about the mass adoption of crypto that was talked about years ago, like it was a thing, and then just disappeared, like the people don't matter. And now that the people think they don't matter, they're not supporting Bitcoin. They're not supporting these things, and they're saying these things now that jeopardize the future of Bitcoin online, because it was about the people, and then it became not about the people. So we've been taking that on. And then I have another story with a friend of mine and how his journey getting into crypto. So of course he got into Guapcoin. He got some of our master nodes, which actually generate the coins and keep the security of the chain. That was the first chain. He got in, got a couple of master nodes, amassed a certain amount of coins, got on the exchange for the first time. He used that to build up a whole crypto portfolio of not just Guap, lots of other things. And then he came to a point where he actually needed money, and he was in a bind. So of course, people, they liquidate the things that they built up. And this is like a couple of years. So he amassed a really nice portfolio that he used to help him. You know what I mean? That he could tap into, just like you're tapping into your 401k or something like that. And he talks about it to this day. So like super excited. And then my story is, I ran out of guap eventually, because I would do things like give it away, all of the other stuff. I had no more guap, but I had gotten some capital in from myself, some cash into myself. I took that cash and went to one of guap's biggest holders and refilled my whole guap. I'm talking, she made a ton of money. You know what I mean? And she was very happy, because she had been with Guap since the beginning and had amassed a certain amount of Guap coin. So all of these things have led us to see the value. Like, there's real value here. There's real, as long as people really believe in what they're doing, but not only believe, you create a stable ecosystem where they could see how it's used, they can utilize it, they can understand it, they can integrate it. Now you have something. You have really truly created something. So we got to see that. And that's what has me still here today.
Yeah, I mean, something you said earlier that was very interesting was about the community and people agreeing that, people need to agree that something is money for it to be money, which I think is a fundamental point. How have you managed that while trying to grow an ecosystem? Because obviously for Guap to have any value, people need to agree that it does, businesses need to integrate it. How do you manage that? Because again, you've got a potentially global, or you have a global audience there, but this strikes me as something that would be much easier to manage on a more localized scale. So how do you make that work?
Well, I think that the biggest thing in making it work is seeing how much it meant to me. Like, I can't talk about it, be about it. You know what they say? So to see how it's a part of my everyday, and how I'm investing in it, in increasing the ecosystem by building additional rails and products, et cetera, all around it. You have to do that. And you got to be willing to make a sacrifice, because during that time, you're taking a leap. It's like you're leaving one capital system behind for a whole different one, but there is no in between. It's like you got to make the jump. And during that process, you don't want to sell people on dreams. You want to get them on reality. You know what I mean? So you got to let them know that, hey, this is a difficult thing, but we're at a point where everything is difficult now. So it's like, all of the, first of all the things I've been saying are just literally playing out the way that they're playing out. But people are more willing to make the jump now than ever. So that's why you have to build it and they come. You have to have that mentality of build and they come, because if you believe in it, eventually the system, the everything that you built up, there's going to be people that are going to show up at the door and they're going to be very happy that you built something stable for them, and then you educated them about it and et cetera. Like that's what it's about. It's like building a business. You build your business, you hope that people are going to show up at the door, you hope there's going to be customers, but this is different. This is community. You're building something and you're hoping that people are going to move into this community and they're going to integrate it and they're going to start from day one. Because my thing is, if, hey, they started from day one, hundreds and thousands of years ago of using money, then they can do it again today.
Yeah. Do you have any data on how many people own Guapcoin or how many people use it or even how many merchants are accepting it?
Well, I would say potential merchants, because we started out just with some individual merchants, but what we expanded into is chamber of commerce and merchant organizations. So we do have quite a few organizations that have signed on board and say, hey, when you're ready, we're ready. So we're building the payment rails so that they can be ready. I never wanted to just turn it on to them and then there is no way for them to have access to liquidity, because that's just very important. I don't want their businesses to fail. I know we're still in in the fiat world. I'm not delusional, So I want to make sure that they're able to pay their bills at the end of the day if they need to. So that's when you tap into the global rails of liquidity in some way. And that has been a struggle. But I would tell you this, whenever there's a downturn, then they listen to me. You know what I mean? Then they come knocking on my door and they're like, oh, okay. So, you interested in this? But when it's bubbling, of course, they're not listening to me and they're not worried because they're seeing dollar signs everywhere. But when the dollar signs go away, then they start thinking about these people who are real diehards and real use case type people, and they come knocking on our door. And so I look for times like this to be able to now push the agenda forward more.
Yeah. And just to go back on that last question, like, do you know how many people own Guapcoin?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Of course, we don't know how many people, but we do have well over a
Yeah,
hundred.
wallets. Sorry. Yeah.
We do have well over 100,000 wallets out there. So yeah, but yeah, so that's about where we are. And one of the things I do know is that a lot of people know about guap. I've gone places and people, "Oh, I've heard of guap. I know about guap." And that has been crazy to me to go to places and people have heard about guap. Like, and I'm, not even, I'm like, whoa. And they've seriously heard about it. So, that's to me where it needs to start. You planting the seeds, especially with the populace I'm trying to reach first. I come from the hip hop era. They used to sell mixtapes out of their back seat, out of the back of their car. And those mixtapes eventually turned into $1 billion system out here of music and that we rely on today. So I'm very well, aware of planting the seeds and getting those seeds out here and how important that is in the community.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the word spreading. I mean, you were in Davos, which is no small achievement. Was that as representing Guapcoin or some of your other works? I know you got
Always
several.
representing Guapcoin, and I do talk about my other work as well, but I kind of go there to see, it's my gauge to see where everybody's at. You know what I mean? And honestly, I don't think we've got, when it comes to blockchain, crypto, DeFi, we've gotten much further than we were when I was back there in 2020. So that's an interesting thing to me. So, because sometimes you feel like, well, maybe I've fallen behind. And then you realize how far ahead you really are, you know? So that's very motivational to, get you to keep you going along. You need that kind of motivation, in this space. So that's how it helped me, because I'm like, man, people are talking about things we've already done and we're already doing. you
Yeah,
know,
well, there's a lot of talk about, and it's happening, isn't it? Where banks and large financial institutions
coins.
are getting involved with blockchain and smart contracts. I mean, how do you view that? Do you view that as a good thing overall for the ecosystem, or a good thing for Guapcoin even, or do you kind of struggle with the idea of that?
Well, I'm not like everybody in terms of anti anything. I'm like in between. I'm more of a moderate, you know. So I'm like CFI, DeFi, centralized finance, decentralized finance is a place for both. Because again, you have people out there that have difficulty managing their whatever it is, if it's their money, their portfolio, their whatever, they want to have someone that they can reach out to help them with these things. And that's fairly reasonable. So I'm very big on that, which is why I'm building a bank. I've been building a bank, a crypto bank for it's been since right before the pandemic. I took a big hit during the FTX thing. I wrote about it. I said that, our sponsor banks pulled out, said that we didn't have want to have anything to do with crypto and kind of left us hanging. But again, you know how it goes. It's a circle. Then people come back around because they need new products, they need new customers, they need to save themselves. So we're telling them, say, hey, we can tap into the customers, but and you can help provide us the security that they need in order to be able to take that leap over into the DeFi world, and let's bridge them together. So, so that's why I am with that. I'm not a anti-bank person at all.
And what drives demand right now for Guapcoin? Because at the moment, there's concern around altcoins, non-Bitcoin, non-Ethereum, non-Ether, sorry. Performance is generally down. So if people are coming to you for something, and this is probably a good thing, it's not because they're
Yeah,
looking to make a
because the
quick buck,
people in
right?
my audiences don't pay no attention to that.
Yeah.
They know nothing, very little about the markets. They know very little about trading and all this other stuff. That's never the thing that will pull them in there in the first place. So it really means very little, honestly. They're like, oh wow, Bitcoin's down. Okay, that's great. Well, how's Guapcoin doing? That's what they do. That's what they ask me. And I'm like, Guapcoin is going to do what the community brings it to do. When we grow the community, then Guapcoin has the potential to grow. They understand how this goes. So they don't have a big, that doesn't affect them too much.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you don't find any kind of fluctuation of interest in what you're doing in line with how crypto is performing?
If anything, it goes up. I think I said this on Bloomberg before. I was asked the same question because crypto was down, I think, during that time. And they was asking, well, how are they feeling about Guapcoin? And I'm like, that's more and more people come and actually pay attention to Guapcoin. Again, the mass adoption of anything is going to come with the correction of all of the fluff going out the door, all of this is going to be $1 million. This is going to change your life in that way. And all this other stuff, all that stuff is going to fly out the door. And then this is going to become a normal thing if we want it to be a normal thing.
Yeah, I mean, how do you expect the crypto market to evolve from here in terms of the amount of kind of coins available and what's popular and what's not? Because as you were saying, Bitcoin has the narrative around that is shifting constantly, right?
Right, right. But I think it's shifting more in a permanent direction again. I mean, I'm a firm believer, I'm a spiritual person. I'm a firm believer in the message that you bring, the initial core message, that's always going to be the leading factor. And the initial core message of Bitcoin was to be an alternative to this current financial system and to operate as cash, as digital cash. So once you deviate from that, you can deviate all you want to. Inevitably, you're going to run right back to the original plan that you set in motion because that's what's going to build trust. People trust what you say, and they don't trust the volatility of what you say. They trust the security in what you say. And what you originally said was the thing that was bringing people security. Because they were feeling the change, they were feeling the ups and downs, coming crashes, and all this other stuff, and they wanted to have more power over their money. And that's what they felt that this would allow them to do. So that gave them trust. So you can't break that trust. Inevitably, you're gonna have to go back to what you stood on. So that's why I think that's a very important thing, just staying with it and sticking with the message and staying with what you stand on.
Yeah. Well, let's just say if Guapcoin ever achieved huge mass adoption, 100,000 wallets is nothing to sneer at, obviously, but
I
let's
did.
let's just say it really blew up. Yeah, yeah. If that were to happen, what are there things that you can do or your community can do to make sure it doesn't lose sight of that initial ambition?
I don't think it will. I think that it'll grow, it'll evolve, but the heart is the heart, so I don't think it'll ever lose sight of what it was meant to be. As long as we create this rock solid foundation that's what our core beliefs are, it'll never lose sight. So, and like I said, it's not gonna be perfect. You're gonna have everybody everywhere using it for whatever they want to use it for. But at the same time, you'll have to stop one day and look back at the roots of where it started and how it started. And I think that blockchain can help maintain the roots of where it started, how it started. We have a lot of things that we have the stories of where it started, how it started, but we don't have the proof. We don't have it written down. Nobody believes anything. But this is all from the Genesis block, is right there. This is the story. The story is here and it's written into stone for here on out.
Okay, I'd like to go on to a few other technologies now. Actually, a few other things, not just technologies. You mentioned earlier that you run a bank as well, a
Mhm,
crypto bank. That's
mhm,
Cowrie, correct? Am I pronouncing
mhm,
that correctly?
mhm.
Great. Could you tell me more about that? What inspired that? Also, I have sympathy for you, having launched it around the time FTX collapsed. That is an absolute shocker of a time. Yeah, tell me all about it though. I'm intrigued.
Well, first of all, the name comes from the cowrie shell. I already mentioned about the earlier forms of money being cowrie and where value came from. So that's where the name actually comes from. But the concept of it is to, provide you talk about the money, but now you talk about the house of money, you know? So that's where people want security. They don't want just their money all out there on the internet and in different wallets and yada yada yada. That with traditional old school people, that's a little bit too much. So what we're trying to do is to say, hey, this is a place where you have your banking and this is a place where you can also access your crypto. If you want to get crypto, if you want to get in other cryptos, if you want to get education about cryptos, you have one place to go to do that. And I think that that's just like, what do they say? A no brainer that you're going to do for normal people. Send them. I've been through years of taking people through this crypto journey. And like I said, many wallets, wallet upgrades, wallets they have access to, markets. They look like they want to cry at the end of the day when you're introducing them to all of this. And I want to make their pain go away because to me, it's just so simple to make it go away. And I think that people make it more complex because, of course, it's more controllable to make it uncontrollable for the people, and you can do what you do in the meantime. But once you start making it comfortable for people, that mass adoption is coming. And perhaps that doesn't suit certain people who have a lot banking on the store of wealth aspect that they have. So in those ways, those might be a threat, but inevitably, I feel like everything becomes mainstream. Like I said, I come from marketing, I come from the streets, and I've learned that every single thing inevitably makes its way to the mainstream. And some people look at it as death. It's like a death to some people when mainstream are doing it because now it's not exclusive. You can't profit off the exclusivity of things anymore. And now, you feel threatened because now everybody has access to what you have access to.
Yeah, I mean, you're right to touch upon the mainstream though, because obviously, and I guess exchanges are obviously offering a lot of services for people too that fill that need. So, what can you do that's different? What are you offering that goes
Go
beyond that?
back or for people. I may be an AI person and I may be very technical, but one of the things I realize is that the people love people. They love customer service. They love being able to access people or have a point of reference. And it is only but so far AI agents are going to be able to go for a little bit when it comes to people, especially their money. So what we want to do is we're integrating a network of financial coaches, real people who have spent their lives devoted to different financial subjects and mastering different financial subjects. And this is their livelihood. So why not give them an opportunity to provide what the people are looking for. And at the same token, give value to the people who are looking for that thing. They're looking for people, local people. Things are disappearing out of real life. Well, it could be replaced with people that are there. People, like I said, financial coaches, investment coaches, or whatever the case may be. Think people that are dealing with end of life, people that are dealing with legacy finances. Like there's so many different types of financial people that are in our community. So let's link them all together. Let's bring them all in and have a place that they can tap into to deal with people, and people can actually touch on some real people to deal with as well that can help them through whatever, and of course, create a standard for it. Because that's what we do in technology. We create protocols, which are standards. So we'll create we have our own standard, our own protocol, and our own measures to protect people. But at the same time, then we're also allowing this marketplace. It's really a whole CFI DeFi marketplace that we're building of services that people can benefit from.
So another thing to talk about Aquarius is your work in AI, and you've launched Melanated AI as well, which is really fascinating. Can you tell us more about why you've done that and the kind
Well,
of what you're trying to build there?
Well, we have a body of AI products, but with Melanated AI is about the democratization of AI in and of itself. Because we kind of feel like, just like with everything else, being excluded into something that's so important and it impacts so many areas of our lives, literally changes our lives right up under us, then we should have an active participation and say in that and a democratization of that. So that's really what Melanated AI is about. It's about making sure that we're not erased because of the lack of input that we have in AI.
Yeah. And do you think general AI models are improving on that front, or are you seeing no evidence of that?
No. At this point, AI models are being trained off of synthetic data. So they're still being trained off of the regurgitated data that they were already trained off initially. So you're talking about no new data, right?
Yeah.
So we know data that needs to be there and it's still not there. So no, we're not.
No, totally. And the other thing, I mean, you're doing all these things at once, right? You've got the bank, you've got Melanated AI, you've got Guapcoin. How are you balancing all these various things at the same time? Because there's quite a lot of stuff to be managing at
Kids.
once, right? What
I
did you
have 8
say?
kids. I had to
And
I
you
have
have 8
8
kids.
kids. I had to
Honestly,
manage 8 kids all at once. I mean, most of them are grown, but I
yeah.
had to manage 8 kids. I could tell everybody my 8 children represents the world. So, somebody thought somewhere up there that I was a good manager of different personalities and different things, so I'm a good manager of different projects as well. Yeah, I'm a geek, so anything technology is like a new meal for me or a different whatever, and people who know me, they know I'm quite capable of that type of thing. They don't even question like, how do you do it? She does it. She does what she does.
Yeah.
He has anybody that knows me, because it's like I feel like sometimes I do, even with my children. Sometimes I wake up and just give birth to something. I do, and I can't let it go.
Yeah.
Cannot. I have to see it all the way to college. So, yes, I have to make sure that it's gonna reach college. So, that's literally how it
No.
is, and I get excited about it. It's what keeps me going in this crazy world with all of these things that can really bring a lot of sadness and tears to you. The only thing that I can do is continue to build what I feel will make an impact at the end of the day and not stop. I would love to be able to turn. Sometimes I tell people know I'll give away the company. I'm like, I build it. I'm a very minimal person. I'm not looking to be ultra wealthy. I feel like I've been wealthy already. So it's like, I want to do things like go camping in the woods and live in my camper for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I'm very minimal for real, honestly.
Oh,
So in that case, I try to get things to a point where you can build a good team, give them what they need, the things that I didn't have. I didn't have access to the capital to be able to do certain things, but I got the brain power to do it. So, whatever I can build and do that and then pass on to other people to be able in the community to be able to run for it. I'm that's what I'm with 100%. I told people, I was like, if I do hit a certain level of wealth, I want to give 99. I really want to give all of it away and keep up enough of it to just give my children. If they want to build it, they want to build businesses and stuff like that. That's it. So, it's and I got to this point because again, I myself will run into obstacles that are problems. And I'm like, why is this a problem? And next thing you know, I'm solving the problem. So that's how I've come to the things that I've had. These are really things that have been along my journey that have been a problem for me.
Yeah. So, what's your advice for doing that? Because I spend too long on LinkedIn, right? And I see all these posts about people talking about the 996 lifestyle, getting up at stupid hours, doing the grind. You're shaking your head. That's not what you're doing, right? So, how do you do this?
Even though I do all of this, I have adopted a lifestyle of balance. So like I might be painting for a couple of hours and then go to back to this thing that I'm building and then deal with my kids and my family. So balance is extremely important to me. It has to be real for you. It has to be a real love. It's a real love. It's just going to work. If it's something that you're just doing because you think that it's going to, make you wealthy or get you here or get you there, then it's going to fall apart quite fast. But if it's
Yeah.
something that you have a real love for, and when you see it, you're like, wow, like I said, this is something I gave birth to. I want to see it go to college. I want to see it succeed. You're going to keep on going. And that's what's going to keep you over the obstacles because you're sure to run into the obstacle. And when you run into the obstacle, that's really what's going to test you. People think it's outside test. It's not outside test. It's your own obstacle, your own life journey lesson that you run into and see if you can get past that obstacle to the finish line. So, but it's not about working yourself to death anymore. We got AI. Why would you work yourself to death
Yeah,
anymore?
I was gonna ask you about that. Like, so much has changed even since some of your earlier projects, right? Because creating a cryptocurrency back when you did, really difficult. And doing it properly is still fairly difficult, I assume. I haven't tried creating one. At the same time, I
Yeah,
know you can dash out a meme coin in seconds these days, right? That became a thing.
yeah,
AI, like
yeah,
you talked about, is completely changed workflows, made things a lot
yeah,
easier. How are
yeah.
you harnessing all this stuff? Where do you get your best? I don't want to call them efficiency hacks. That sounds cliched, but how are you making things happen
I have
much quicker?
20 agents, 20 of them. Auditing agents, code auditing agents, security, all of these things. And I've stuck with them. I haven't jumped on the next what do you call it? The next trend, the next fad. I've stuck with the core things that I use. And and it's really very basic because I'm a very basic person. I'm a terminal person. People ask you, "What IDE do you use? What are you developing? Terminal, notepad, pad, whatever." Like, I literally use the most limited stuff. And, again, creating I think that in that way, AI has been a godsend because it has been a helper for me because I'm like, "Okay," whereas I don't have the capital to have a team. I have had a team. I couldn't even afford my team anymore. You know what I mean? But the beautiful thing is I was able to fire my team, honestly. I'm sorry. Is that AI is taking your job. AI is taking y'all's job for real. So I was, able to move past that and now have access to the tools that I need. And in combination, I would say it is good that you have a certain knowledge. I'm already a data science, I'm already a developer, engineer, and blah, blah, blah. So it's not leading me, I'm leading it. And you need to be at the point where you could at least lead it correctly, and then it'll work for you. Because just having it build, but not having it audit, not having it this, not having a human in the loop, all of these other things, that could be really bad. So you have to, only a person that is kind of already in it would know that you need these things in order to be successful in what you're doing. So I do this, I do webinars, It's how I make my money. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I teach people to do what I'm doing. I'm not going to teach you something that I'm not doing. This is what I'm doing. This is what you can do. And I hope that it can impact. I realize I'm a lot more geeky than most people are, but I'm hoping that it could help at least a couple of people who come to my classes and they're able to like really run with it. That's what I'm hoping, you know. So that's what I do. Because I think at the end of the day, I think I'm really an educator. I think that's what I am. I'm a teacher more than anything.
Great stuff. And it's okay to be geeky. This is a fintech podcast, so you are in a safe space. I mean, let's not pretend we're something we're not here, you know?
Know you're geeky when you speak a language that you think everybody is understanding what you're saying, but then you realize that you're speaking another language that other people don't understand what you're saying. And then you get to that point like, okay, yeah, I've been in a bubble. I don't realize that I've been in a bubble all day.
Oh
So,
God, yeah. That is that's exactly it. That's exactly it. I no, it's been really fun talking with you again, Aquarius. Is there anything else you want to mention before I wrap this up?
I think that, when it comes to this space, try to find how it identifies with you authentically. Try to find a real authentic drive and connection with it because you won't be able to make it through. It's not the most lovable of spaces. You know what I mean? Like honestly, it's not the most fun sometimes. It could be painful. Like imagine it's like, getting out there and trying to preach something new to people and they're throwing spitballs at you. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna get there. It's not it's so if you're not ready for that, then I would suggest, you whatever. But at the same token, the rewarding thing of it in it is that you are innovating something that is likely here to stay. I don't care what anybody says. It's here to stay, and you're a part of that innovation and you're a part of that journey. And it may take a while for you to be able to look back and see that.
Amazing. That's a great point to finish on. Aquarius, thank you so much for joining me. And for everyone who's been listening in, this has been Let FinTech Grow, or LFG, as I like to call it. Thanks again. I'll be back again soon.
Raising funds, speaking the club, drinking coffee.